Welcome back to a new episode of the Work in Progress podcast, where we talk with some amazing entrepreneurs and professionals in the DMV area about their journey to success. We are excited to have Howard James, the owner of FASTSIGNS in DC, with us today. Howard spent 17 years as an educator before transitioning to the world of entrepreneurship, where he's been crushing it for another 17 years and counting. As the owner of FASTSIGNS DC, Howard is all about helping local businesses create and display their brand identity in unique and creative ways. His team has an eye for design and a passion for finding the perfect signage solution for his clients. Throughout this episode, we'll be diving into Howard's journey from the classroom to the business world. We'll be talking about the challenges he faced along the way, the lessons he learned, and the successes he's achieved. You'll also get some amazing insights into the world of signage and branding, and learn how FASTSIGNS DC has helped countless businesses stand out from the crowd. We will also discuss the challenges and benefits of running a team of employees with diverse tasks. Leading a staff that can take you from the design process all the way through to installation. Whether you're an entrepreneur looking to make the leap into franchise ownership, or someone looking to learn from someone who's been there and done that, this episode is for you. So sit back, relax, and let's get to know Howard James, the owner of FASTSIGNS DC, on this episode of the Work in Progress podcast.
We're here today on site at the FASTSIGNS in Washington, D.C. with the franchise owner, Mr. Howard James. How are you today?
All right. Thank y'all for being here.
All right. We really appreciate it. So we pretty much first want to go into some of your history, where you grew up at, and your journey to FASTSIGNS.
And this is the only FASTSIGNS in DC, correct?
The only one.
Only one. Okay.
Let's
establish that. Let's put that marker down.
Let's be clear.
Let's be clear.
Okay.
All right. Well, I was born and raised in DC, upper Northwest, Lamont Riggs area, and started my journey. My dad was a guy that you were gonna work. And he taught you at a very young age, he started off with the bubble lawnmower, pushing it behind him. And, I quickly was cutting everybody's grass in the neighborhood, even though I had allergies. I'd come in and be like dead for 2 days after that. But, he had a very entrepreneurial spirit. And he, has pushed that onto his kids. One time we had he was a printer. So I ended up being sort of a printer as well. But we had a press in the basement. That's just kind of how he rolled. He always had a side hustle. He always had something going on, to give us some extra funds, to give us what we needed. We didn't know we were, I guess we were middle class, but, we never wanted for anything, because whatever we needed, he made sure we had. So from that, in high school, I took an interest in woodworking and technology in terms of theater technology. I did a lot of backstage work, building sets, doing sound and lighting. And I went to Carroll, so they had a full theater there, which was great. It wasn't kept up well, but it was a great theater for a high school. So I fell in love with that. I thought I was going to be an architect. Went to Hampton for 1 year for architecture. And said, this ain't it. I got that theater bug. So transferred to Towson State to the theater production department. Graduated from there, worked at Arena Stage, and got offered a job at Duke Ellington as their technical director.
How many years did you work at Duke Ellington?
I was there for 17 years. So went from technical director, teacher, chair of the department, through the whole gambit of that, and I loved it. But it wasn't a 9 to 5. I've never worked really a 9 to 5. It was we get there and we leave when we're done type of thing, and that's always how I've worked. And 17 years, finally decided to have some kids after I took care of everybody else's, and just saw that. I won't say it was a dead-end job. I could still be there today, but a lot of, we had a lot of administrative changes. DC had a lot of administrative changes. I saw the writing on the wall that, even though I could be here forever and I loved my job, that at any point in time, the axe could drop. And I didn't count, once I realized that, I was like, I need to put something in my own hands.
Right.
and I decided to start a business. And I love DC. I mean, I've never lived anywhere else. And I've never wanted to really go anywhere else, even though I was in theater. New York was too big, everywhere else was too small. So I wanted to stay here, do what I was doing here. Looked at doing something in theater production, but DC was too small for that. It was rent was too high and need was too little. So like, what can I get into? I got 2 kids now. I want to be able to craft my time a little bit better. And I just started looking at franchises. It's a great way to get into a business you know nothing about and have a better chance of being successful at it. Because you get training, there's a system, there's a network, there are people to help you. So, you know, I looked around, I was looking at like coffee joints and, you know, stuff, something I couldn't afford at McDonald's, but, you know, it was like everybody was into coffee and Starbucks then and other places. I'm like, I don't even like coffee.
Yeah.
So I used Fast Signs for a show, and it was all the way in Virginia. And, you know, back then I sounded like this archaic, Wild Wild West. You couldn't, you couldn't send a file in over the internet. That would take 3 days. And, they couldn't send you back a proof. So you had to go down there and drop the file off, talk about it. Days later, they'd be like, come see the proof. So it was a long process. And I was like, we have one of these in DC. And I was like, oh, wait a minute, that's it. DC was always one of those places that everything we used to always be in the suburbs. I mean, if you wanted something specific, it was really hard to find it in the city. Everything was in the suburbs. It's not like that now. But, we opened in 2007 when the change started really happening in the city, and we just rode that wave. And people were really happy to have this kind of service inside the Beltway. So that's the quick story of it.
Okay. So you started when you opened up shop, you were at a different location at the time. So kind of talk about that, and then what led you to expanding to this very large place that you're in now.
Well, growth, luckily, is what leads you always to expand. But you can start out 2 ways in a business like this. You can start out fresh, vanilla box, never been there before, open up, no customers, probably not knowing too much of what you're doing yourself, and hopefully it takes off. Or you can buy an existing business with like customers that are already there. You're going to pay more money for that. There's going to be equipment there. It may work, may not. You never know until you get there. And you can try to take that and grow it more than the previous owner did. So there wasn't any Fast Signs in DC, so we opted to do a vanilla box. Yeah, some days I'm happy about that Maverick decision. Some days I'm like, was that the smartest decision? But I think because of where and when and how and my connection with the city, I think it was the right decision. But it was hard. I mean, you really start with nothing. You open your doors, the phones are on, and they not ringing because don't nobody know you're there. So, but that's the way we started, and it kind of took off, and business was good. And again, it being a franchise with national support, they made me do things that I probably would not have done as fast otherwise in terms of getting the name out there, people recognizing it, internet was picking, internet picked up, people could Google search now.
So it's kind of like a mentor-mentee kind of thing where they were guiding you through the phase in a quicker pace than you would have done.
Well, yeah, I mean, they offer that support. They have a system that says do this, and this. And, you just open a business, you just trying to figure out how do I turn the lights on, but, someone's there helping you do it and telling you to do it. And, you got to put this ad out there. You got to put this spot on. You got to, pay for, back then Yellow Pages, or whatever it was to get business that, it may took me 5 years to get around to doing that otherwise because I'd have been lost in just the minutia of the work. But, they had stuff set up. They had people to help you. Counselors and stuff. So it was like a mentor and mentee, but I'm paying them for it. Yeah, so I always tell my employees, I'm like, we pay them. They work for us.
Yeah.
So you need something technical support. I don't have to always call an IT person. I can call corporate office and say, hey, this isn't working. what do we do? And most times that's something they can handle.
So how did you go about building your book of business?
It crafted itself a couple ways. So,
Okay.
we talked about Yellow Pages. Yellow Pages was the biggest ripoff ever. And we all remember Yellow Pages. I mean, it was pre-Google, pre-internet, but it was expensive. And we started quantifying the customers we were getting out of there. We're spending $1,200 a month to be in this book, and that was not by any means
Yellow Pages making a
high.
killing.
It's kind of like a crapshoot.
Right.
Yeah.
And the customers were like, can I have a decal? A $75 customer. So it was no return on profit there. But it's the only thing to really kind of get your name out there. And then you started joining organizations, the chamber, councils, kind of going, and that, it works differently in every city. I mean, I've had people that have had great success with it. I've had some sort of mediocre success with it. It depends on your city. If the right kind of people for your business are in those same organizations. So it's a trial and error. You go out, you find a customer that needs your services, and you hold on to them. You keep them engaged. You hopefully, the best way we do before Google or the internet, the best way was when people would change jobs. I mean, just keeping them engaged, because I had a great customer that worked at this company, and then he went to another company. Take me with you. And then let me call back and see who got your job so I can stay here as well. And that's how you kind of, I tell my guys all the time, is you want to stay engaged with your clients so you can grow big and wide in that company.
Okay.
So I want that person to start getting more, and I want him to share me with his friends so they can start getting more. And then when they go to the next company, take me with you so I can meet all those people so they, we can provide our service for them. If the service is good, they have no problem doing that.
Okay.
So you were briefly talking about being networking and being in different groups of people to expand your business. I noticed at one point in time you took a visit to the White House. Did one of those network groups take you that far?
Well, that was part of being part of the franchise. It was definitely an interesting experience. I probably shouldn't talk about it, but I will, because it was during the Trump administration. So, I mean, I got to go to a lot of places and do a lot of public stuff because I'm the franchisee in DC. They're working for policy, so a lot of times I get called to show up as the franchisee. It doesn't help that I'm a darker skinned franchisee. That always helps as well. And that was some of the motivation probably with the Trump thing. And I was kind of torn. I mean, he wasn't my guy. Just based on how I grew up, what I thought was right or wrong, and that's fine. We've had presidents on both sides, but I thought, whoever the president is, that position requires a level of respect. So when I was asked to do it, I was like, and then I looked at the policy that was being talked about, and it was something that I thought would be beneficial for the business. And people fell on both sides of it, but I thought, it was going to allow my staff to have better health care.
Were you concerned at any point in time that you showing face next to the particular president will be, not great for the business, or?
It depends. The business is green. It's not black. It's not white. And it's going to depend on how your clients feel about it and how they feel about their business. Is their business green, or is it, a socially connected business? So, I mean, everything you do can have that effect one way or the other. It could be a up and a down at the same time. So again, I had to look personally and say, what's right for me? What's right for my family? And, what kind of level of respect am I showing the position? Now, I made the decision to go. What I didn't realize was, and I don't think I've ever really talked out loud about it. What I didn't realize was I was the black guy in the room, and I didn't realize I was going to be that until I got there.
And you looking around,
I thought I was going, it was a group of owners from different businesses there, and when I got there, and it was fine, I caught an Uber and it got stuck in traffic. I got there a little late for the pre-meeting, and when I got in, they sat me at the head of the table. And I'm like, I think I'm just like one of the people, I'm like, why am I at the head of the table? So then we go over to the White House, and, they're maneuvering people around, but they're not maneuvering me around. I'm right in the middle. And I went,
Light bulb.
I got hoodwinked, but again, I'm there. I try to be very respectful of it. It wasn't a great event for me. It was a great event for everybody else in there, but it wasn't a great event for me just because of the way it went out. I don't even think if he noticed me, he didn't reach out to shake my hand or anything. It was like a live and learn.
Yeah.
It was a live and learn.
So it was an
You
awkward
gotta do that.
situation all the way around.
Probably just for me.
Just for you.
So I want to backpedal a little bit. So you briefly went over Duke Ellington.
Yep.
So I know there was some big names that went there.
Absolutely.
Can you go a little bit more in depth about who you taught, who you worked with?
I was there for 17 years. I mean,
Anybody that stands out to you at least.
I mean, you got Dave Chappelle. So he probably was a senior or when I taught there, when I first started teaching there. And, Dave was a funny guy, nice guy. I just remember yelling down the hall, always saying, Dave, go to class. So that was one. There was a lot of people before me. Denise Graves is the opera singer. It's a lot of folk. But the proudest thing that I get from that is when I'm at home chilling, looking at a movie, and I go,
I know that person.
I taught them.
Yeah.
My kids are like, no, you didn't. No, you did. And I'm like, yeah, I did. I'm looking at them. I'm like, that person looks familiar. So just to see people working, they're out there working. Everybody's not a star, but they are definitely doing their thing. Ellington is a network to be, it's a big network, and everybody knows somebody that went to Duke Ellington. I guarantee you. I look on my Facebook page and I'm looking at somebody, and I always got a friend of a friend, and it's always through, either GC, but mostly through Ellington.
Yeah. Even some of the local musicians that kind of came up listening to later on, you would say, hey, yeah, no, I worked with them before. I'm like, really?
I guarantee you, there's no musician that. Anytime I look at anything that's musician related, there's somebody, and I've looked at podcasts with, international singers, and I'm looking back, I'm going bass player Ellington, guitar player Ellington, and I'm seeing them all over the place, and so it's great. And it was great that it's different departments there, but I was in the department had to interact with most of the other departments, because anytime they put on a show, they were in my house, they went on the stage, and I interacted with, so I knew all those kids, and that was part of how we grew here, was because once Facebook started, I was probably one of the oldest original people on there. And I had like all these friends because I had 17 years of kids that, I was connecting with. And as they grew, they would come by, I need something, or where it really was beneficial was so many Ellington people have worked here. And still to today, my manager went to Ellington before I even worked there. But it's been a great place to draw talent from. For inside the business, but also as people to be customers as well, or their connections that they're like, oh, you need to go see Howard. He taught me in high school. Great guy.
Wow. So coming from Ellington, how were you able to take your skill set and your experiences there and transfer it here to FASTSIGNS?
Oh, that was a great. I mean, I worked at DC Public Schools. We never had any money. And so we, everything was figured out, and we were doing art. We were doing shows. We were doing stuff that had to be creative, and it was great. I mean, I came straight out of college, and pretty much when I started working at Ellington, they let a creative free and gave him his own theater, some money, some kids to work with, and my imagination was able to flood out on all of that. I mean, I did things there, and people allowed me to do things there that, most creatives never get a chance to have that much artistic freedom. And I bring it here, and people go, and I don't know how to run. I used to, but I don't know how to run every machine anymore, because we've grown and we have people in place to do that, and I have my place with the things I'm supposed to do. But they'll come and say, the customer wants to do this, and that won't work, and I go, yeah, we'll figure it out. There's a way.
Yeah.
And I go, I might not be able to tell you the exact way, but I'm going to tell you we're going to be able to do it. We're going to be able to figure it out. And you can't tell me we can't.
Yeah. So you have the mentality of we're not turning any customer away. We're going to basically.
Oh, and that's part of the success was, and I know a lot of owners, and some people don't, I look back at it, Uncle, you never read plans. How do you do this job if you never read plans?
Mm-hmm.
And, done some of the things, but, people come to me with, you think it's just a sign. We're going to print a banner. It's going to be done. People come to me and I'm like this. You want to do what? And I'm going, every day almost, there's something that's crazy. And, that's part of the draw is, you figure it out and you put let's say you have to put a price on it. You have to quantify it, and can nobody else figure it out?
Now,
Or don't nobody else want to figure it out?
What's the craziest project that you've seen? The most outlandish, head scratcher?
This was the one that we actually said no, and we don't say no. I mean, this is why I remember it, because we said no. And the client wanted to put, you see like at a parade, they have a banner across the street between two poles. So, okay, so you want to put, that's where it sort of started, was we want to put a banner across the street between two poles. Now, that's a little harder than you think. It has to be really strong. It has to be high enough so nothing hits it. It has to, be able to resist a lot of wind because it's nothing but a big sail. There's a lot of hardware and engineering that goes into it. There's something that's really simple, and people are like, "Oh, I'm just going to pay a couple $dollars for that." And I'm like, the banner is not going to be. It's going to be a little expensive, but not too bad. But everything else is going to be expensive. And it was some kind of Plant World Day event, and they wanted to have the banner in a U shape. Like U-shape, and they wanted to put plants in it and have plants sticking out of it, so you like a pot.
So it's gonna be heavy too.
And it's always gonna be heavy. And I was like, oh no, that's liability right there. I mean, I'm picturing dirt falling, and they were like, and the fire department, you have to install it. The fire department's gonna install it for us. I'm like, oh no. First they're gonna, where'd you get that from? And so I was like, no, we can't do, we can't, we don't have the material strong enough to do that. And we may have, but I just kept seeing the liability of it.
Yeah.
I kept seeing it falling. And I was like, we're not doing that.
From a business aspect, how did you take the leap of faith from going from working from a W-2 position into being an owner? Did you plan for a year ahead? Did you save up your money? How did that work out?
Oh, he's been a saver. So, I mean, saving up my money, I'm not, my dad was, I had to hide my money from my dad. I mean, I worked a lot when I was in high school, drugstores and, different cutting grass. And, he knew when payday was. He'd come home and he'd be like,
Can't
"You
have
got
that
paid
check
today? How much you get paid?"
Mm-hmm.
And then you tell him, and then he'd be like, "Okay, you gotta save half of that. Give me that. I'm put it in the bank for you." And I'm like, I got, I'm aging myself. I'm like, I might worked all week and made $35-$40 working part time, and I'd end up with $10. I'm like, I gotta put gas in the car. I'm trying to go out and hang out, but I had a great bank account.
Yeah.
So it was always savings. They always saved for me, bonds and stuff. So part of, I married the right woman, so I better throw that in there. So, she had a great job in the federal government. But, when we decided to get our house, the down payment came off of all the savings bonds that our parents made us save. We had the money. It wasn't that we earned it from working. We just had it from our savings. And then when I decided to open the business, we took a home equity loan.
Okay.
So, and of course, luckily we bought our house in early 90s, and, the house was cheaper than the 2 rents we were paying. So, DC used to be great like that, not no more. And like, okay, great. We didn't save money by buying a house. And then that house turned into the equity we needed to start the business.
Wow.
And home equity loans, low interest, pretty easy to pay back. So it worked out well. And then we were growing as well in terms of our careers. So it was a leap of faith, but I had always been an entrepreneur at heart. I even when I worked at Ellington, I still did, just like my dad, I had side hustles. I was designing all over the city, doing this, that, and the other for small theater companies. So I always knew how to work on my own, price things, budget, make money. And so to me, I don't think it was that big a leap.
Okay.
And everything, like I said, I was at a place where I knew if one wrong administration change, everybody, no matter how long you worked there, how loyal you were, you could just get wiped out. Now, could I get another job? Absolutely. Um,
But you want to be in the driver's
but
seat.
I wanted to, I didn't want to be under somebody's scrutiny like that.
Right. You wanted to be able to make up your own schedule, make your own,
Now,
Well-
did I work less? Probably not.
yeah. And that comes with entrepreneurship.
Right.
Yeah.
But I get to choose when I work. I mean, I could work at 3 a.m. in the morning and still make it to the soccer game at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. So, I mean, it worked out well.
Right. Yeah. Yeah, that's very important because I think a lot of people sometimes they think of starting their own business and they say, "Oh, I'm gonna make my own schedule and all that," but they don't understand that. Well, when most people clocking out at 5 o'clock, they're done for the day.
There is no clock.
Yeah, there's no
no
clock.
clock,
So a
right.
lot of times you're spending the time that everybody else is kind of enjoying life. Sometimes you're up late night, burning the midnight oil, trying to wrap up a project. A lot of times the days run together. So I think that's important to put emphasis on because I think a lot of people think when opening a business is just rock star life, and it's far from rock star life. Yes, it's very fruitful, but it's far from the rock star life of, well, I just make my own schedule and do what I want.
Well, I mean, I always tell people, I said it's lonely. I mean, because, I have a staff. We started with a staff with me, it was 3 people, so 2 people and me. And we've been as big as 20 people. And right now we're probably hovering around 12, 13. And I love my staff. It's the best staff I've ever had. It's the staff I have right now. Great people. But I can't be different. I have to look out for their best interest. Sometimes in lieu of what they think, and I'm going, hey, we got to get this done. Well, I got to go. It's 5:30. And I'm like, no. This has to get done.
Okay.
And I have to ask those hard questions. And I do it by quantifying, by saying, I'm not going to ask you to do anything that I wouldn't do. But right now, this is your job. You got to stay and get it done. And someone has to do that. And you can't always be the friend when you're doing that. Most likely you can't. And a lot of times, 5:30, they know when 5:30 hits. It's out the door. And I'm like, see y'all. And I'm like, 5:30 don't mean nothing to me. It's what else do I have to get done? And that's what happens.
So how do you go about finding good talent?
Pray.
Because I think that's critical for any business,
Yeah.
is finding great talent. And most people can put a front on in one interview. So how do you weed through it?
Everybody can put a front on. And I'm gonna be just straight up. I mean, I've had people that I've hired and I'm going, man, you should go into acting. You really should. I mean, everybody. I mean, some people really don't know how to interview, and that's clear. But most people, you're never going to get what you want. You got to put a system in place that kind of works through that, to kind of get as much out the way as you can. And we got to say, at best, the best person we will hire after we take them through our process is still only a 50-50. Maybe it'll work, maybe it won't. I've sent people to training, and I've had trainers say, these are the best people we've ever seen. And I'm talking about internationally. And they were still cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs. I mean, and so some of it's a front, some of it, is it the right fit for you? Do you want to put in the work? Is this the right hustle? Really is what it comes down to, because this isn't the right hustle for everybody. It's a hustle. It's action packed all day, every day. You name FASTSIGNS, people are like, okay, I need a fast sign. I need it in 3 minutes. And I'm like, dude, fast for you would be 3 months. I mean, it's related to your project. It's not just related to what you waited too late and now you're asking for something instantaneously. It's not instant signs. But it's always trying to figure it out and having the mentality to be able to deal with the customer that's never going to change. Some people get frustrated. Well, why they always come at 5 o'clock and need it right away? Hey, how's that going to change? We just need to figure out how to better deal with that customer. What do we do? What do we put in place? So, I mean, we always have ads up. We're always looking for people, good people. Sometimes we find them when we don't need them, and we have to figure out, do we figure it out Because if you find somebody good, you try to figure it out. Do you put people in place to grow, or do you wait till you grow to put people in place? It's a delicate balance. But always looking, always networking, even in that aspect, to find people and give them opportunity. And you got to realize that, most people, the way the day's market works is people move from job to job to job. That could be good for me and bad for me. But what I try to do is be right to them, give them something where they can grow here or they can grow somewhere else. Because, and the reality is they're trying to take care of themselves and their family, and I gotta respect them for that. And if that means you need to move on, great, you need to move on. I just want you to be happy about the time you were here. So maybe you meet somebody and send them on over here to me.
With most of your employees here, I'm assuming they come in, I would assume the vast majority have at least some foundational skill set. But I know along the way that they're also building skills that they can basically take anywhere with them as well. But also, how is it difficult retaining for employees, especially because of the pandemic? How has that been? And a lot with the Great Resignation going on, has it been difficult for you to hold on to some of your best employees?
Well, I will say we switched employees during that time. We had the opportunity to get rid of some dead weight. I probably shouldn't have said it that way, but I'm being real. I mean, you got to look, and sometimes you keep people around because you got to train this movement. You got to keep it moving. You can't stop. When I was only 3 of us here, and a month after we opened, maybe I could stop. But now that train ain't never gonna stop. You got to keep it moving. And sometimes the worst feeling is knowing I got the wrong person in the position, but I need to work with that person until I can get them better or find somebody else better. And luckily for us, and it was luckily, during that time, we were able to pick up some really good talent and make some changes in our talent. And it sounds kind of cutthroat, but I'm going, if you're not working here, maybe it's you, maybe it's me, that maybe you'll be happier somewhere else. And sometimes that's a decision that I have to make as the owner, that this isn't working for me or you. You may need to be happy somewhere else. Sometimes it's a decision you make for yourself and you say, I'm out. Either way is fine. But I'd say don't burn no bridges in the path there. Just understand how it's happened. And I've had people that I've had to let go, that have gone on to find great careers. And I had one guy I let go, and he went on to start selling printers, and I actually bought one from him. So it was the best thing I could have done for him was let him go. He wasn't great at the job that I had him doing, but then he became great at something else.
Do you recall the first sign you ever printed as a fast sign owner?
Printed something?
Yeah, the first sign you printed, or first, product you sold as a fast sign owner.
No.
Really?
It was a time when, I'd go around town and I go, oh, we did that, we did that. And it got good when I kept going. People were going, you did that sign. I go, we did.
Wow.
Is it one that stands out to you, like that you're truly proud of, that you can recall?
There's a bunch of them that stand out to me. I mean, we did on World Bank. Every year they put up a big AIDS ribbon. I mean, huge, up on the whole building. We did that one. That was a pain in the butt. Just coordinating and fabricating that. Actually, we did it twice. We worked for Metro for about 5 years, where we figured out how to change at every bus stop. There's a schedule, and every one of them got printed here.
Wow.
And got installed by people that worked here.
Okay.
And the previous people that did that, they were like years behind in updating these schedules. So they came to us and said, this is what we need. This is our problem. This is the quality we need. And this is when we were in our original shop, and we figured it out. And that's what we do. We figured it out, how to do it in lightning fast speed and get it out there and in. So that's a big project that I'm really happy. I was really happy about. And downtown at 14th and Penn. There is a park across from the hotel that, not Freedom Plaza, but on the other side of 14th, that has a memorial. It's the World War One memorial, and I never knew the park was there. And someone called us one day and said, we're putting this engraving of this mural of the history line of World War One from beginning to end. And I'm like, okay, what do you need me to do? And what it turned out to be was they needed a high quality print to go across it until the guy that's carving it gets the pieces done.
Okay.
So it looks just like it. I mean, it looks, half of it's a photo of what he's already done, and the other half is the original drawing of what he's going to do. And so I go over there and I'm sort of kind of figuring it out, and I'm like, I'll meet you on the site and just take a look at it. So I get there, and then I soon realize there's no way to get a truck in there. There's no way to get material in there. It's surrounded by a moat that has water in it.
Wow.
And I can't even reach over and touch the wall that is going on. And no one knows what's behind, because they have a temporary banner up there now, and they don't like that. But no one knows what's behind the banner. And no one can tell me, and I can't reach it. But they're asking me to figure it out and to get it done. And we did. We figured it out. We got it done. We got it up. And that was a recent project. So that's up now.
Are you ever nervous when you're doing these installations up? Because you don't want to damage wherever you're installing it.
Yep.
So is there ever any nervousness, or is there any documentation that you have lined up to kind of protect your company?
Every time. I mean, we try to cover our butts as much as possible. But I mean, there are things that, that wasn't a job like that. But I mean, basically, we go in the high-end office buildings, and they want their logo on the wall, and we get there, and it's a mahogany wood wall. And we're like, we got to drill into that, right? And, so you look at it and you go, what's the best way? You start writing some stuff down like, okay, we're going to try this, but, this could happen. And if this happens, this is how we're going to take care of it. We've gotten places and there have been marble counters, and they're like, yeah, just drill into it. I'm like, oh, no, we're not drilling into that. Yeah. We're going to have to figure out some way to tape this on,
Do you have them fill out some type of waiver to say, hey, well, if you really want us to drill into this marble, this might happen. So,
and that's absolutely what we do is we try to mitigate the liability by saying above and in front, here's the possibility. Right. We got to stop because there's a possibility this could go way south. And it's not that we're not going to try, it's that this is the nature of the work we do. Right. You kind of brought us in on the end. We had nothing to do with that being marble, but you want us to integrate with it in a way which the marble may not like. Right. So absolutely every day. And my guys, part of their training and grooming is to figure out, look at the project and figure out where you got to cover your butt. Okay. And it's easier to have that conversation in the front than in the back. Because in the back, they're like, you broke my counter, you got to pay for it. And I'm like, oh.
Was that something that
the sign was $1,000. That counter is like $50.
Right. Was that something that you learned by trial and error or from the beginning?
Oh, there have been some mistakes.
Okay.
There absolutely has been some. Luckily, I've been knock on wood somewhere. Luckily, there's been nothing that was, that would ruin the business. But and when mistakes happen, as a business owner, one of the things I've started really saying this to myself this year, but I've been practicing it, is surrender the outcome. You could sit there and worry about it, toil over it. At some point, you just got to surrender the outcome, deal with it, and move on. Cause don't waste your time on it. If I got to, there've been jobs where we had to do the whole job over 2 or 3 times, but we're going to do it till we get it right. We ain't made no money on it. We may have lost money on it, but the thing is, we promised we would do it. It could have been all our issue. It could have been shared issue. It could have been their issue, and we're going to talk honestly about that. If it was your issue, here's what you need to do, but this is what we can do to get it done. Surrender the outcome.
Yeah, I think that's commendable because most of the time when you go to a company or a business, you just want transparency. You want communication. As long as the communication is there, if some hiccups come up, just be upfront with me and communicate what's going on and what's the expected completion date.
Yeah. I'm glad that you brought that up too, because that even goes for people that are trying to start their own business. Is they get into some situations on a certain project, and they get down on themselves if something happens on it. And a lot of times I'll tell those individuals that's part of the territory. There's going to be situations where maybe you drop the ball, but it's your job to remedy the situation. And you can't really get in your feelings about it. Like you said, you have to surrendered outcome. That's your best thing, is put your feelings aside. All right, this is what we need to do to address it, get the job done, move on. Yeah.
So I know you spoke about your father and how he kind of groomed you for this. Did you have a mentor when jumping into the Fast Signs, or did you have anybody you leaned on for business related questions?
I've had a bunch of mentors along my life. Luckily, I've had a lot of good people were placed in my life at the right time to make me the person I am today. I mean, a lot. At each stage, I could look back and see, somebody that made me a little different than what I was, and hopefully, I think it was better. And then when I got into Fast Signs, part of what I liked about this franchise was, and in this area, it maybe not be the same in every area, it depends on how dense you are, was that there were other owners in Maryland and Virginia, and they were more than happy to help. They were, I could call them for advice. How do you deal with this? What the hell is that? People are like, can you do this? I'm like, yeah, we do that all the time. And then I'm on the phone trying to figure it out. So, even at the corporate office, but even the other owners wanted to see you succeed. It was like we all had our own separate businesses, but we had the same name. So, they were absolutely mentors, and, that turned around to the point where sometimes they were calling me and asking me, well, how did you do this? And how did you do that? I'm like, why are you asking me? You've been in this longer than me. There, but I know you know how to do it. So, I mean, it worked that way. When new people come in, I always levitate to them. I'm like, anything you need, let me know, because people did that for me. I went to every store in the area, sat there. I had to go to one store for a couple of days. I went to every store because I wanted everybody's point of view and perspective on it, and they were all more than helpful.
Yeah, because some industry, and it's good that in your industry, and being that it's a franchise, that you have other owners that are willing, because in some industries people can be, they don't want to help because they assume that it depends.
If we were on top of each other all within DC, it may be a different story.
It could be but it also means that you're looking at they're looking at the bigger picture. There's enough money out there to be made by all of them. So hey, if I'm helping you and you're helping me, then we're all better all together.
Absolutely.
Versus, no, I'm not gonna, just because I want to compete against you.
And I've had people in other systems actually do the same thing. And that was something they used to always say, was there's enough money out here for all of us. And pre-2009, that was, everybody was really saying that.
Okay.
Afterwards, everybody got a little tighter.
Okay. Yeah. They turned the heat up a little bit.
So earlier in the conversation, you briefly talked about customers' expectations. They think the sign Fast Signs. I want it fast. So, and even with automation and Amazon and everything, everybody's getting everything now, yesterday. So how are you keeping up with that type of demand and expectation?
You set the expectation early. They call you. It helps when you know what you're talking about, and you can sound confident on the phone and back up what you're saying and think proactively through the process and be upfront and honest with them. I mean, people call and say, I need this and I need it now. And I'm going, no way. But this is what I can do for you.
So if somebody comes into this location and they want to sign, take me through the process.
So they'll come in, they'll meet with one of the project managers up front. They'll consult. They'll get asked. Hopefully, it doesn't feel like you're getting asked a bunch of questions. It feels like a conversation. But generally, we're trying to find out what you really need. And people are coming all the time. I need a poster. Okay. And the questions we're going to start asking, the conversation we're going to start to have, is determine if you really know what a poster is. What are you using it for? How are you using it? Where are you using it? How long do you need it for? Because I can give you 10 different items that are going to work for that. But once you start narrowing it down, is it a short-term thing? The the question is always hard is, what's your budget? Because I got to sign for $1, I got to sign for $10, I got to sign for $20. They're all going to, I can't say they're all going to do the same thing, but they're all going to accomplish the same mission. One may last for an hour. One may last for 20 years. Which one do you need? What quality do you want? What are you trying to represent? Do you just want to go out there and hold a sign up and say, screw you all? Or do you want something that you can do that for every day for 20 years? Two different, same sign, two different materials. So we're going to have that conversation with you. We're going to ask you some difficult questions because no one wants to tell you what their budget is because you're going to spend it. And I'm going, not necessarily. I'm more interested in having a customer for life than all your money right now. I want some of your money over an extended amount of time. But I'm absolutely going to give you the best thing I can give you for what you need. And I don't want to waste my time in you saying, well, I don't know what I want to spend. And then I come back with this $1,000 sign. You go, I don't even plan on spending $20. I thought you didn't have no budget, So we're going to go through that with you. We're going to take you through our process because people always want you to do their process. And I get it. But your process is not going to work. Mine is. I'm going to take you through my process. This is what we're going to do. We're going to take that. We're going to develop it. We're going to send you a proof of what it looks like. Once we do that, this is what we're going to need you to do. And we're going to stay on you to make sure you do it. Is, approve it, pay for it, respond to it. So we can have this much time to get it done. And so many times, we'll send somebody a proof and they'll go, that's it. Can I come pick it up now? I'm like, oh, we haven't even turned the machine on yet. So, again, to go over all that process at the beginning. So the expectation is this is how long it's going to take. And some things won't start until I trigger them as the customer, as to I approve it, to I pay for it, whatever, to I send this file in, so they understand that they have a part in the game as well. But
it's collaboration.
But we're going to, as a project manager, we're going to stay on you. I'm not going to say, well, hey, I told you I needed it by this date. I'm going to call you every day and tell you I ain't got it yet. What's going on? What can I do to help you? And that's what a good project manager will do.
And what's the typical turnaround time for a proof? I know it's all varies depending on how big the project is, but what do you aim for?
Usually about 2 days.
Okay.
I mean, I usually will get them out faster than that. But generally I tell people 2 days. It's, if it's a huge job, I'm not going to say 2 days. I'm going to say, that's 2 weeks worth of proofing right there. You at 400 times. It's going to take a while. But generally, average is about 2 days.
And before a proof goes out to the customer, do you have to give it your stamp of approval?
As the project manager and not as the owner. So everybody has their own customer. So the project manager tells the creative people what they want, what they want to do to it. Once it comes back up to this is done, they'll check it before they send it out to the client, and then goes to the client and we'll have a conversation with them and say, is that it? And then we'll move on from there.
And if the client says, yes, that's it, what's after that?
So always interesting. This is interesting to me, and some people do this differently. That's usually when we go into, okay, now we need you to pay for it. And some people are like, you need me to pay for it? And I'm like, yeah. If you go, and I always tell my people, I was like, if they go to Home Depot and they order these cabinets, they're not going to get those cabinets for like 3 months, but they have to pay for them as soon as they order them so they can start getting produced.
Right. The cabinets probably weren't even made yet.
Right. The wood's not even there yet, but you got to pay for it, and then we'll start that because I'm making a custom sign just for you. I'm not pulling it off the shelf. I'm not, I can't use it for somebody else. Somebody else isn't going to want this. I love my dog sign, in pink and yellow with red flowers. What am I going to do with it after I make it for you? So at that point, we've put some skin in the game. We've talked to you. We've done an estimate. We've given you an estimate so you can see what it's going to be. We even usually do proofs before we take any money. So that's our skin in the game. Now it's your turn. We need you to put some skin in the game and put your money where your mouth is.
Right.
Put it down, and then we can move on to it, and we'll start fabricating right after that. Now, does that work with every customer? That's our policy. I mean, we have customers that have accounts, and that's fine. We've worked out somehow that they're going to process. They're going to send us some kind of paperwork that says, I'm going to pay for this. I approve this to go into fabrication.
Okay.
And I'm responsible for the cost of making it.
Okay. So you get the approval, the customer pays for it, your team starts fabricating and putting it together.
Yep.
And what takes place after that part?
And then the PMs will come back. Once that's done, it goes through a whole system. And I wish it was up because you can see it moving through the system.
Okay.
And we quality control it. We've probably been, if it's getting delivered, we've already set that up, or it's getting installed. We already scheduled that. We communicate that to the client. We got people scheduled to come in and do it on that particular day. We may have had to get hardware, tools, and supplies to, coordinate all that going up. All that's taking place at the same time. And then, the day before, we're going to call you, remind you, hey, we'll see you tomorrow. I mean, many times we've gotten somewhere and people are like, oh, I forgot you were coming. So, a good project manager is never going to depend on the client to remember anything or to be responsible for anything. That's my job.
Yeah. So you basically hold your hand
To hold your hand through the process. And then we're going to come out. The guys are going to install it. They're going to, help you, they're going to show you where it goes. They're going to, see, what issues we have and deal with it as best they can. If they're going to try to get it done still on time, and hopefully we leaving you smiling.
So what percent of your clients are repeat? And then what percent, what would you say, do you get a lot of people that are one-off, or is it more so you get,
I would say in the industry, in the U.S., or worldwide, I would say most places are 50-50.
Okay.
D.C. is a very interesting place. And it's been a very interesting dynamic for me because being in a franchise, I can gauge myself against other people in other places. And I can see D.C. is very different than most places. I probably would say our repeat customers in the 40% range. And we get a lot of new customers or one-offs. Now, our repeat customers are great.
Right.
But in other places, they might say my repeat customers are in the 60-70% range. And, I'm getting 30% new customers. But it's the dynamic of where, middle America and other places where, in D.C., people are changing all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, as politics change, staff changes, everybody has a corporate office here. They may not get their sign here, but they may get it installed here. And that's been a great business for us as well, is figuring out how to be that last step, to get it installed. But maybe we didn't make it, but we installed it. We have a lot of one-off customers that, they absolutely need us one time. And if you could sell them all day, but if you don't need a sign, you don't need it.
Right.
There's no use pushing that. But, they were happy with us. Maybe they'll refer us to somebody else, but, maybe somebody will see it that loves it. But, they absolutely, that was it. That's all I needed.
So you said you had a PM that manages the whole project, and you have installers, of course, that install the project. I'm assuming you also have designers.
Yep. So, there'd be a design there. We have a couple designers and a couple production people. And a lot of them are cross-trained, so they can move back and forth between the departments at will. Sometimes even some of our installers can do production work as well. And so, I mean, it helps to understand this is my part, but what happens after that, or what happened before that. So I spend a lot of time in training and cross-training my folks. Not necessarily so. I don't want my PMs designing, but I want them to understand the process, how long it's going to take, how long production is going to take based on the fact, okay, I can go, oh, the sign is this small. It's going to be, I can whip that out in 10 minutes. And the production people are, are you crazy? That sign is small, but it's a lot of detail in there. That's going to take me 2 or 3 hours to deal with. Oh, really? So to know that, it helps. To understand, for the installers always get, for lack of better phrasing, the shit into the stick, because everything that went wrong ends up at the end.
They're at the end,
and they're on site like,
trying to make magic happen.
I don't know what they told you, but they can't even say that. They're like, okay, I'm gonna figure it out.
Right.
And
that's your motto. We'll figure it out.
Right. And that's their cross to bear, is they're out there in front of the customer, maybe in front of the CEO of the company, and they're like, oh yeah, don't worry, we got it. So
So how does it work out? So if a company comes and says, I want a sign installed inside of our building, do you do an on-site visit first to do measurements and figure out what material we're drilling into and how much this will cost?
Absolutely. So we try to get out there and see it first. And a lot of times we used to, sometimes I'll be like, just send me a picture. And I can tell a lot from a picture. I can tell if I need to go from a picture or not. But we'll try to get out there and see, because there's so much that, if you don't go out there, you don't know. And maybe everything's fine in the office, but what they didn't tell you was the biggest door to get in is only 2 foot wide. and the sign's 3 foot wide, and I can't turn it. So you won't see that in a picture. But, me walking in the office, I'm like this. And,
So
like I say,
document with your own pictures on site as well?
Absolutely.
Okay.
And you live and learn. I mean, early on, I remember there's one restaurant where I did a sign outside, electrical sign outside, and we installed it, and we never thought about how we were going to wire it on the inside. And the ceiling was really low, and it wasn't a drop ceiling. It was a real ceiling. So everywhere the wires came through was above where we could see. And it was a lesson we had to learn. It hasn't happened again, but it happened that one time, and we were like, oh, we had to drill a hole in their ceiling and give them a hatch, and so they could get through, so we could cover the hole up, and but now we go, okay, let me not assume that I'm going to come through where I can get when I go on the inside.
Right. Okay. So with everything kind of becoming more digital as we progress, how has FASTSIGNS or FASTSIGNS DC been able to? I'm assuming you do digital signs as well. So are you pretty much prepared for the future, as a lot of things are kind of becoming more digital versus things that you can touch? I mean, that'll always be here.
So you can make a metaverse sign.
I'll make anything you want. And I would say, we're definitely, very versed at doing print signs and fabricating static images and all that sort of stuff. But being part of a system prepares you for that. They're like, this is what's coming down.
Okay.
Here's the new technology. And it's funny about digital signage. Digital signage has been here for maybe 15 years. It's gotten better every year. It's gotten cheaper every year. The technology has changed every year. It's so easy now compared to what it used to be. But if you don't do it every day, you don't build a muscle for it. We can absolutely do it. We have solutions for anything you want. But I'll be honest, it's not something we do every day. It's not something everybody is prepared for yet, because everybody likes the nice, shiny digital sign, and it makes a lot of sense until you look at what it costs. And people are like, oh. And there could be a variety of costs. I've seen the number of digital signs go up that were the cheapest digital sign you can buy, and they went on, and a month later they were off. And I won't do that. I'm not going to sell you just to sell you a sign, because you're going to call me back. Y'all were here today when the lady came just popping in, and they're going to come back if something goes wrong. And so I'm going to sell you something I can stand behind. It's going to cost a little more because of the quality and craftsmanship and the warranty behind it. And it's going to work. And you want to buy something, especially with digital signs, with the technology evolving every day, something that's going to stand the test of, how long you want to have this sign? People, I spent that kind of money. I want it forever.
Yep.
I'm like, okay, well, let's talk 10, 20 years.
Yep. There's an operational and maintenance cost there as well.
Right.
Right.
So, to have something that's going to, last, it can get fixed, you can get parts for down the road is what we sell. Something, it was interesting with digital signs. The big sell at first was the sign was a big sell, but doing the creation of the content was even the bigger sell. Being able to, if someone said, hey, I want to change this, they can call me and I can change it from here. I can change it from anywhere I had an internet connection. And it was funny. We thought that was the greatest thing until we found out everybody was like, I don't want you in my network.
Yeah.
And I wasn't even in their network, but the perception was that I was. The way it worked was the sign actually went to find the updates and then pulled them down. It wasn't like I was going inside their network. But they didn't want you in their network. So then they would always be like, well, we're going to train Jimmy over here how to do the digital sign. I'm going, okay, I'm going to train Jimmy how to do the digital sign. And, 2 months later, they called me talking about Jimmy left. and we don't know how to get the sign changed. So it's always an interesting dynamic to figure out. It's a beautiful sign. It's very dynamic. It can change how you want it to, but you got to have some things in place to make it work. You got to have the people in place. You got to decide if, you want to job out that service, or if you got somebody. We did one sign at the school that I've done 3 times because somebody left. And they didn't know where the key was to get into the program, or this or that, or they moved from one office to the other and they lost the antenna, so it's always something where, you need to support still, even with those types of signs, to make them work.